is something that's not talked about that often in psychology and therapy and just in relationships in general, is understanding that women have very different minds than men, and we process emotion very differently. And we also have the difference between what we actually have coming in and how we see the world and how we think and how we feel. So our brains actually function completely differently to each other. Even though they are the same organ, they are so different. So I wanted to explain a little bit about how they're different so that we can understand the way that each other works, because it just helps so much in understanding the genders. And so the more we understand, the more that we can be compassionate and we can work together when we're doing things, or driving each other crazy sometimes with just not understanding, like, why are you doing the things you're doing? Why are you thinking the things you are thinking? Why are you feeling the way you feel? So the best representation that I have of a male's mind is this right here. I don't know if you can see that, but basically men have very great organized minds that are very compartmentalized. So if you picture a man's mind made up of tiny little boxes, and each box is a specific subject. So there's a box for work, there's a box for the car, there's a box for his friends, a box for his family. And what happens is, when a man wants to talk about a specific subject, he opens up that box and he talks about only what's in that box. And then once he's done, he carefully places it away, being careful not to touch any other boxes. So men's minds are so simple and they can compartmentalize super well. So that's why you hear them saying things like, leave things at home, don't take it to work, leave your home life at home. Or they can have a really busy day at work and have so many things going on, but they can walk in the door and just switch it off. That's because work is a work box and home is a home box, and they do that really, really well. And that's a really, really handy thing to have. The thing is, though, women don't have minds that work that way. Our minds are quite different. And the best representation that I have of a woman's mind is something like this. So a women's mind is like a tangled, jumbled mess where everything is connected to everything else. So the bills and the car and the kids and the health and the food and the shopping and how someone treated them and what they said and what they think and what they should be doing. All these things are all connected, and thinking about one thing at one time and forgetting about everything else is so hard for us. So you think about, if this headphone was plugged into a phone right now and was actually had energy running through it, that energy is our emotion, and our emotion drives and powers our brain. And women, lucky us, are highly emotional. We have more emotions than men. We ruminate more, we stress more, we have more thoughts and feelings going on. And so what happens when they're a big jumble is it's really hard for us to sometimes be in the moment. We can be hyper-focused and have so many things going on at once that we can start to get overwhelmed because our mind is taking on and showing us everything at once, as opposed to letting us compartmentalize and just think logically about one thing at a time. So that's where that jumble can start to get too much, when we're in a highly emotional state and we've got too many emotions, because to unravel that ourselves is really, really tricky. Even sometimes we just don't know what's wrong. Like, we know that we don't feel great and we're stressed, but we don't actually know what's wrong. It's because it's really hard to see because everything is connected to everything. Once we start talking, we can start bringing up things from the past, or things that happened just yesterday, or things that are happening now, or things that might happen in the future. And it's all this big one jumble. So the amazing thing that a man has is what we call a nothing box. I don't know if you can see that, But have you ever asked a man, like, what are you thinking about? What do they say? Nothing. That's actually what they're thinking about. They have the ability to go into a nothing box, to think about literally nothing. And given the chance, they will go into that box as often as they possibly can. So they can and do have the ability to switch off and to switch down. They could just sit there and veg and have something on the TV, but not actually be watching it, and have that like a peaceful mind, and not be thinking about absolutely anything. Whereas women, we can find that really hard to even grasp, because the majority of women, 4 out of 5 women, have a jumbled mind full of emotion and memories and thoughts that are constantly going. So that having that space to just switch off is very foreign to even comprehend. I know for me it was when I learned that. So if you have a man in your life, go and ask him how he thinks, and explain how your mind works, and see if you can pick up those differences, because it's really, really interesting to learn and to understand how we are so different. You know, if a man says, just don't think about it or whatever, it's like, to us, it's so hard. It's just like, how can I just not think about it? I can't just switch it off. Whereas for them, they can just like close that box and put it away neatly. So understanding that is really helpful. And if you're finding that you do feel like you can't unravel what's going on for you, and you're constantly having things going on that aren't helpful, that you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with your thoughts, your feelings, and your emotions, and you want to be able to calm that down and possibly be able to have a nothing box of your own, to be able to be that content and peaceful and feel like you're capable and in control, and you don't have to worry about things that have happened in the past or are going to be happening in the future. If you want to get to that peaceful place and actually be able to think about what you want to think about, get in contact with me, because that's what I help women to achieve. So just as an insight with my mind, I used to have constant head chatter going on all through the day, whereas now my baseline is just quiet and peaceful, and I can figure out, oh, what do I want to think about, and then pull that thought in. So it's coming from a place of being like very creative and responsive, instead of reactive to what's going on and feeling like really rushed and overwhelmed and anxious, because those feelings are all resolved. So I work with women specifically to resolve all of the reasons that they're feeling worried and anxious and overwhelmed. And those are the things that are heightened, and the energy that's running through here that's keeping all of these things really jumbled in our mind. And once we resolve that, that all calms down and starts to unravel. So our mind is so much more peaceful in there. It's quieter and it's supportive. There's no negative head chatter sort of going on. It's more positive inside of there. So I just wanted to share that insight of how our minds are different. And the reason for that is because we need something different that really accommodates how we are different as women and works with that. So that's why I am accredited in transformology, because it's the only female specific approach out there that works with our cycles, our hormones, our minds, our bodies, our feelings, that understands how we work as women, that gives us that long lasting change, not something that makes you feel better for 5 minutes or 5 weeks. Everything that is identified that you're struggling with, that is a big deal for you on your day-to-day life, is lasting results. That's never going to come back. And that's my guarantee. I've got that outcome guarantee. So if you find that you've gone to psychologists, you've gone to therapists, you've gone to all these things, that you're trying to get help, and either you feel better for a bit, or it's just not enough, like you're still searching, you find yourself still searching, definitely jump onto my page and have a look at my webinar. It explains a little bit more about my story and what I do and all of that sort of thing. And if you resonate, I would love to be able to delve in and see what's going on for you specifically, to identify what's blocking you and limiting you from being able to feel free and happy and confident and really in control of your emotions and thoughts and your feelings as well. So when I work with a woman, I work with her for about a month and then you're done. It's not ongoing. It's not long term. It's quick, fast, guaranteed healing so you can get on with your life and live happily and confidently.